10 خطوات هامة وعاجلة وأعتقد أنها ستكون حاسمة لو تم اتخاذها. لا أقول بقوانين
10 major steps that need to be taken according to the law. That is to dissolve the Justice, Freedom and Justice Party and all the other parties based on religious background. Dissolving Muslim Brotherhood and confiscating their resources or money, arresting the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood who are being accused of instigating terrorism. Closing Al Jazeera channel and all the channels that are instigating people, restoring control on the street and applying the rule of law, restoring functionality of all the work of the state in institutions and depending on our own resources, taking actions against countries that have taken attitudes or stances against the will of the Egyptian people. Also promoting the moderate attitude by the Christian and Muslim scholars. We will continue our coverage. I'd like to remind you of the campaign to support Major General Sisi against the campaign waged by the Muslim Brotherhood to litigate him in front of the International Criminal Court. So you are required to sign in and vote for supporting General Sisi. After the bloody events that we have seen yesterday, the Muslim Brotherhood members went into one of the mosques to hide, and we will present on air the videos and will also show some contacts and telephone calls by politicians whom we considered to be sincere ones. They were appealing to the world to protect them against the security forces. The reality of the situation was not as such. There were some calls from outside the mosque asking them to go out, from a safe exit, but they refused and continued to stay inside the mosque. Some of them also used weapons against the forces and attacked the Azbakiya police station. What was noticeable yesterday is that they said that the security forces dealt fiercely and brutally with them, which was not the case. And the video attests to this. The video shows how the police were dealing with the women from the Muslim Brotherhood. They were providing them, as seen in the video film, with every possible assistance and trying to comfort them, as we have seen the policemen or the person from the Central Security Force trying to soothe them and to comfort them. As seen here, the policeman is escorting her out of the place. He's kissing her hand, he's kissing her head, and he is giving her drinking water. So let us see another brutality, quote unquote, from the army. We are trying our level best in order to ensure safe exit for them from the mosque, and are being supported and helped by the military personnel, as it is seen here. The Muslim Brotherhood have failed to present themselves well before the Egyptian people and the other peoples of the world. Do you think, Mr. General, that ousting them from the political scene is quite imminent? President Nasser said that they are traders of religion and brokers of politics. This is what President Nasser said about the Muslim Brotherhood, traders of religion and brokers in politics. The young members of the Muslim Brotherhood are misled. But the mothers and fathers, do they have the same opinion? Watch with us. The old lady is talking about the corpse which were under the platform at Rab'a al-Adawiyya, and says that we need very much to avoid such a situation. in our life to come. The officers who were killed and mutilated, and all the atrocities committed by the Muslim Brotherhood members. Now, we will continue with you the other side of the story, and also what was presented in a Zionist channel. Good evening, Mr. Ambassador. The meeting with the representatives of the permanent member of the Security Council, Mr. Badr Abdelati, says that we have expressed our dismay about the attitude of certain members of the international community vis-à-vis the situation in Egypt, where Al-Qaeda members and flags were raised, and the attack on the vital state institutions. The Minister of Foreign Affairs met with the ambassadors of the permanent members in the Security Council and explained to them the criminal acts committed by the Muslim Brotherhood organization and their practices in the Egyptian streets. Yesterday and day before yesterday, the minister had some telephone calls with Kerry, with the Russian ambassador, and with the Russian foreign minister. What was the content of these calls? The main objective was to clarify the realities, and we asked them not to take stances based on wrong information. But regrettably, there is a problem, whether in the foreign media or international community. They say that there was an overuse of force in Egypt. So our role is to get in touch with them and to explain to them the reality of the matter. And we are also sending messages to our ambassadors abroad, and we are providing them with DVDs. That's what I wanted to ask you about. We wanted the contacts to be supported by audiovisual material. That's what we are actually doing over the past few days. Every 4 hours, we used to send the materials, the audiovisual material, to our ministries abroad and to the embassies of the foreign countries in Egypt. Also, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Egypt has invited diplomatic representatives of the foreign countries in Egypt and provided them with photographs and other audiovisual materials. There should be a screen. So when we are talking about certain news, that would be screened as well. Last Thursday, we have hosted the representatives of the international news media at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we presented slides which we got from state agencies. That is what we are going to do also in the future. And our ambassadors abroad are providing foreign ministries in the countries where they are assigned with all the relative materials. Also, the material is provided to the international news channels. So in the end, things will be well understood by those people, and the foreign media will get the truth about this. What about what happened in Benghazi? Was there an attempt to demolish the embassy? Not in the embassy, but in front of the Egyptian consulate in Benghazi. The explosion damaged the front fence of the consulate, and some of the glass windows were demolished as well.
There were no human losses, and as I mentioned, the ramifications of the situation are being controlled, and the Libyan side is coordinated with. Thank you, Your Excellency. A small break, and then we continue.
أهلا بحضراتكم من جديد.
Welcome back. I would like to welcome Mr. George Ishaq, the member of the Al-Dustur Party, and Dr. Azza Kamel, the writer and journalist. Today and tomorrow we will have concentrated media activity. We saw the press conference of the presidency, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has another press conference tomorrow about refuting the lies about what's happening in Egypt and about 30th of June. Do you think this is the right time, or is it late, or what? I think the press conference of today was excellent, and the language was refined. It's not about the English language. The Arabic language was specific. The messages were clear. And for the first time, for a while, I felt the grandeur of the message that is sent for the inside and the outside as well. So overall, it was a successful conference. I think it was a bit late or delayed, but we saw the very poorly organized conference held in the Public Authority for Information previously and Intelligence. So I hope the press conferences to come are up to it and present facts and not just rhetoric. Specific facts and clear messages, either for the inside or the outside. Do you think there should be videos? There was a CD Dr. Mustafa mentioned, something for everybody. And the channels, there is a difference between press conference and a big presentation. Press conference has a certain task to have a specific piece of information declared, and then they could provide supporting material to endorse these facts or something. But if you're going to an international convention or conference, you can use audio and video in your presentations and everything. And there's no one way of doing it, but it's just an idea. So you can have the audio and video and the voice and the picture, but you could not deliver the message. So there are important, but this is a press conference with a specific mission. The words need to be selected, and I think that was done today. Even the religious fascism terminology, I would like to thank Dr. Mustafa on it, because he described this group or categorized it or classified it properly. This religious fascism with the black terrorism, I believe this word needs to be repeated, and it has very big reference, and it's important to use the correct reference and terminology. And I liked that they answered the foreigners without arrogance. It was quite calm and quiet to present, to deliver the message quietly. This is very important. We don't want somebody to shout and provide a very loud delivery with no content. Mr. George, do you think there's shortage and weakness in presenting our issue or our case internationally? In the beginning, I would like to say that yesterday was a very sad day, and all of us, all of the Egyptians are sad for the victims, and nobody wanted Egypt to reach this level. It was very possible to pass this crisis, but it was God's desire. I think we had major shortage. We have a young generation working on social networking with major professionality, with very high skills. There is a gap between what happened and the press conference. They played a major role. If you look at social networking, you can see how young people, the Egyptian young people, are genius and innovative. We also have very high caliber, like Dr. Mustafa Hagazi, a great young man and a professor of planning and strategy, and very aware. And we have tens of that kind of person, and we want, in this stage, we have people with knowledge, we have people with wisdom, we have people with creativity. The traditional way is not working, and it's not satisfying for the youth. It's not satisfying for the West as well. If you bring traditional people and you say, like Mr. Eman, Miss Eman, video and audio, it's creativity. I think you can present your way in a new and modern way. Modernity in social communication is beyond imagination. We have the young people, they have major recordings, a lot of recordings, but we're waiting for, I think, as Mustafa said today, the person responsible for the CDs, we're waiting for them, is the ministry, and there is shortage from the State Information Service, that we learned today that their president is still abroad. So we are in a state of war against terrorism, and last night they said we're going to have peaceful demonstrations, and it had nothing to do with peacefulness. And they lost a lot last night. I think they're losing day after day. The State Information Service, everybody is saying that they're not doing a good job in their regards. Do you think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is not doing the right job as well? I think in most ministries it's the case. I'm not being harsh on the State Information Service. It's before that, this institution is a huge number of turned into a huge number of employees with very much incompetency, and you need to restructure and you need new blood. As Mr. George said, there are young people who are capable of creating this authority, something totally different. At the same time, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you need to, there was great change in the Muslim Brotherhood, put their people inside and everybody were, so you need to do a restructuring, a true restructuring, and we need to, so the security solution solely is not working. Yes, you're trying to evacuate Syrians and you're trying to fight terrorism, yes, but this doesn't guarantee that terrorism will stop. You need to start to build a society that is capable of combating this terrorism, from proper education that endorses human rights, that is against discrimination, that calls for equality. You have a strong economic mechanism or institution that aims at social justice. After you kill the Muslim Brotherhood, you will have a lot of hunger and you will have a big problem, so you don't need to look underfoot. Social justice is not an easy thing to achieve. The next government need to, you don't have, with all due respect to all people, you don't get all the 80-year-olds and the 70-year-olds. We have major competencies. We have a lot of young people, as Mr. George said, but I wanted to see them in this new government, but 95% of them are very old people, or elderly people, people over the 65 and the 70 years old. And this is a very hard time for them. Maybe because it's that hard time, it needed extra expertise. No, I think this is a justification, because a lot of people repeated that. We have a lot of competencies and we have a lot of technocrats, and we have a lot of high caliber in economics and education. Why did we spend all that time until we find a prime minister? I think even the prime minister is different from the rest of the ministers. Some ministers needed to be there differently, in a different manner. I'm not saying just to criticize. This is our country and we're keen on its interest, and I respect people with age and experience. We need to have them as consultants and advice, but we need to enable youth. When I say youth, I'm talking about, like, you can get 50 years of age and he's a young person. He's not a young person, but it's perfect. So you have 50 and you have 55 with major expertise that are able to run. It's a transitional government. Doesn't mean that we're just filling the space. Transitional just government, it's like a government, a war government. You're facing something very hard, very, very difficult. It's not just a sect or a group of people, but as I'm saying that you're saying when since the 25th of January, we didn't shake the event. The Egyptian administrative body is very huge, very heavy, extremely heavy, and it's overstaffed, and it's I'm not calling for the sacking of employees, but you need to use them well and you need to train them well. You said that you spent, as Ms. Eman said, you needed a lot. You spent a lot of time to find a prime minister. And as for the youth, I'm talking about youth, not just any youth. It's not just because he's a revolutionary. Now, conduct a survey about young scientists, Egyptian scientists, that they're willing, with a nod of head, to come here. It needs a lot of work to be able to modernize the administrative body and decrease the weight of the government body. When you see people going to their work in the morning in banks and stuff, it's impossible that they're going to achieve anything. They're traditional, bureaucratic employees. The second thing is the security is not the last thing to do, and we need to be launched. We need to be hasty with this security thing, and then we have ready projects, internal projects, economic projects, educational projects. We need to see a sign. This government is not just to fill a gap or something. No, we need to see work. They need to bring some, the small dreams, the sparks of hope, the small projects that start with these sparks. We want to see an idea or a vision. If they have just one vision, because I'm a person interested in education, I wish we could have some more interest about education. We've been preparing for a conference for 3 months now to talk about education in the future. We need to work on that. So when we're done with that government and we have a parliament, we have a complete and comprehensive project that we offered to the parliament for discussion, especially after the last year and the regression of the mentalities, and you're leaving the education for people that are not professional. Okay, let's remove the primary 6. That's not important. We're talking about the content. We're talking about the content of curricula, the content of the teachers. If we do this one achievement in this government, will be enough. Yeah, but this is dependent on the economic project. And okay, we have a call by Major General Mustafa Al-Baz, Deputy of the Minister of Interior for prisons and jails. There is a piece of news that Safwat Hagazi has been arrested. Is that true? We are in the sector of jails and prisons. We're not informed with that, if he's arrested or not. We don't have information in that. We were not reported on that, and nobody requested us to receive them. So you don't have confirmation or negation of this piece of news? No. What I can confirm is that he is not under our authority, jails or prisons. What about Mohammed Zawahri? This, I confirm his arrest, and he was sent to the district attorney to be investigated with, and he is under high protection. And there are other leaders of the Brotherhood. We have no reports on that anymore. More than that, are there anybody else who's been detained or arrested? We have decisions from the DA about a lot of leaders in of the Muslim Brotherhood, but not the famous names that everybody recognizes. So some people arrive, yes, one by one, and the investigation starts with them, and they go to the general prosecution. We have certain security procedures, and everybody knows them, and everybody trusts them. We're the very safe place for all these detainees. These security procedures are increasing, especially with the expectation of leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. What are the extra measures? The armed forces, before you contacted me, the area of Abu Zabal prisons was endorsed with 3 tanks of the armed forces by their teams and all their armory, and Abu Zabal area also was endorsed with armed vehicles from the central forces. And I'm telling you and the audience and everybody who's listening to us, you have to know that you should not get close to prisons by any means. This is a very sensitive area. Therefore, the people before the law would not allow the proximity. Were there any attempts of getting closer to? Last night there was an attempt to the military prison of Abu Zabal, and the forces stood against that. This very unacceptable act, and 4 people were arrested, and the rest escaped. There was some shooting against the prison sector, the prison authority sector, and the forces stood against it, and we forced those who come to us and shoot randomly. We forced also, I need to say that the residents of the area stood with us and through your show, and I would like to thank and greet them and provide all my appreciation once they knew that somebody is coming through the bridge of 6th of October and the exit of Shannon Street and starting to shoot towards the prison. They were all on the heart of one man, and they helped us and they stood with us, and we, through the forces, the security forces that is around the sector, the authority from every side, we forced one of the terrorists to leave his weapon and run and hide in the middle of the others, and he threw his machine gun in front of the building, and another bag was thrown, and we find ammunition and inside of which I don't know why, and I think those people are not Egyptians even if they carry the nationality. So all these attempts is for the prisons and jails. Is it the same concept as attacking the police stations just against the Ministry of Interior and the Egyptian police, or are they trying to get somebody free? I think there is some sort of lack of thinking and terrorism and trying to shoot sporadically, and they don't care about the results of this criminal act. People dying, innocent people dying, and martyrs from the police. I don't know why all of that, but the history is going to write a lot about this very difficult period of time. What about the son of Hassan Malik? Yes, he was arrested, and his at the general prosecution now being investigated with. Now, there are rumors now that say that Biltegi and Aryan and are of the people who got arrested. Is that? I have no information. I just talk about the people who I receive. Thank you very much, Major General. Mr. George, we are talking about our image abroad, and a lot of people considered what Dr. Baradei did recently is a stab in the back of the Egyptian revolution and the Egyptian people. The Dastur party condemned the smear campaign against him since his post in the presidency. Dr. Baradei froze his membership in the Salvation Front and the Dastur party, and I'm very upset with his decision, but it's a personal decision. He's speaking about that he cannot carry the burden of this situation. That's his own situation. This is personal situation, yes, from him, but impact the nation inside and outside, of course. No, I'm saying this is an individual decision, a personal decision. What I'm saying that he did not, there was no pressure or no consultation. This is an individual decision. So we didn't know this decision except when he announced it. So the timing was killing, very, very bad timing. And what he said, what Dr. Hussam Isa said, is that he knew everything that was taking place. He needs to be, Dr. Hussam needs to be held accountable for that. He needs to explain and provide a detailed account on that. How do you see this decision? What is the message it sent abroad, and how? Part of the impact was the resignation of al-Baradei, but it's partial. So what McKean said, for example, he said that there is civil war. So you don't put the whole burden. So his resignation didn't lead to this international reaction. So some people said what I'm talking about is the person, the figure. Al-Baradei himself, why did he do that? What do you think he took this decision? He says that he has values that he cannot give up or away. That's his personal opinion, and you cannot... I need to say something important. You can criticize Dr. Baradei, but you cannot say that he's an agent or this is he's a traitor. No, this is improper. This is totally inappropriate to say that he's a traitor. And whatever our opinion of what he did, this is a wrong decision and we criticize it. We're upset with it. We're against it. But we cannot say that he's a traitor. And that came from people that were very enthusiastic to him. The people who were most enthusiastic about him were the most people who criticize him. You can criticize as much as you want. They say that he's irresponsible. Yeah, but without reasons. No, he has his own reasons, as the doctor said, and we can object to that and we can not be convinced or dislike it. He says, I'm a man of peace and I'm against forceful evacuation of the sit-in. That's his point of view. You agree or disagree, that's another topic, but you cannot reach the level of saying that he's a traitor and he's Zionic and he's an agent and we're going to file a lawsuit. I want those who say that he's a traitor, show us an evidence, show us a document. The rhetorics or narratives are very dangerous. We're ready to see evidence and practical evidence. So I cannot say that anybody from the Muslim Brotherhood that he's a traitor. I'm not going to say that. I can't say that he's a traitor. I disagree with them politically and we're against them, but treason. But let me say something. If we're going to keep on exchanging accusations of treason, there are accusations of having intelligence with other foreign powers. They go on trial and there is law, and if they are found guilty and it was proved that they are spies of other forces, we were threatened by other videos that we get killed. The law and the judiciary finds them guilty or not, but I cannot as a political actor say that this person is traitor, because in another stage some other people will say that George Ishaq is a traitor. How can I respond to that? Did you kill anybody? Did you provide intelligence? Yes, the law is the judge between us and them. We are a civilized country. So is it still a political disagreement between the Muslim Brotherhood and us? Since last night, it's not a political disagreement. That's why we're not talking about politics right now. After the terrorism that took place last night, politics stopped. I think maybe after the revolution, things that took place in Rafah and the murders and the attacking of police, that's why we need to have investigations and transparency, and these people need to be put on trial, and fair trial, that say that they will be treated for treason or traitors, or these are innocent, or these are guilty, or so. We are not judges. We are not the judiciary. We see and we witness the crimes. We cannot sentence somebody to anything. But we need to have, with all due respect, we have a certain principle. I've been watching for 2 days on the media, a war, and dishonest war. there is a difference between saying that this is a wrong situation and Dr. Baradei should not take this decision on that time because it has a lot of ramifications. Other than saying that I heard in some channel that they're saying that he is the real murshid of the Muslim Brotherhood. So they went crazy, and I don't think it's proper because of the disagreement with somebody like Dr. Baradei. So we slay him and we turn him into a traitor. With all due respect, the people who are bothered with accusation against Baradei, they need to focus on terrorism and trials and see if these people were betrayed the country or not. We need to focus on the main thing. We should not leave the main thing and put the burden and of the disasters that took place on Al-Baradei. Not everything, but partially he caused the West took his resignation. No. The West didn't need Al-Baradei's resignation to take this position. We're people who analyze things, and we don't narrate things. The situation of Qatar, for example, is well known before Baradei became vice president. The situation of America is well known. This is its interests. This is a country that knows where its interests. America fought terrorism, and Obama supervised killing bin Laden, and he's the one defending Muslim Brotherhood today and the terrorism taking place. Baradei didn't say to McCain that an announcement should be made about a civil war in Egypt. So these are criminals. Why is America defending the Muslim Brotherhood? Its interest. There is a project in Egypt by the Muslim Brotherhood, the creative chaos and constructive chaos, the project. And so how can you say they're traitors? So this project, it's an international project. It's a global project executed by the hands of who? Whom are we defending right now? What we're saying right now is that those who are accused, can you defend the terrorism of last night? Can somebody say that this was peaceful protest? You arrest them with law, and then the dimensions of the conspiracy will be shown and revealed to the whole world. So you think that this war of America is because the Muslim Brotherhood was the arm that is going to execute the plan of the Middle East. Until last night, I think this is a serious matter, and we're talking about the wise people in the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. You should say, you should know that you're losing a lot. The amount of weapons, and we saw pictures when a lot of people were arrested next to Al-Fatah, a lot of Indonesian people, Syrian people, Pakistani people, and there were rumors about an American person. What is that? It's an international organization, and Al-Qaradawi himself called for jihad to take place in Egypt. Every Muslim who's jealous and keen on his religion should go and try to die in Egypt in support for his brother. Morsi opened the door wide for all the people from Afghanistan, Pakistan, the relationship with Turkey. And the government a week ago said that there were 12,000 jihadists in Sinai, an estimated number of 12,000 jihadists. So he brought everybody, the people who assassinated Sadat, and put them in front. That was an insult for the army, of course. So to bring the people who assassinated the person who was a main factor in the victory of October War, the massive cooperation with Hamas, which does not represent the Palestinian people or the government of Palestine, and it's not democratic. They didn't have elections for 7 years now, and they torture Palestinians in the heart of Gaza. So the Hamas people went directly to the office in Muqattam, the office of the Muslim Brotherhood. They didn't went to the presidency. So the general prosecution detect these things, and they need to have investigation. So I believe that the Muslim Brotherhood is in disagreement with disagreement ideologically with these jihadists, but they had shared benefits or shared interests at this point of time. So the idea is not just to control the sit-in or evacuate the sit-in of the Muslim Brotherhood. You have terrorist spots that will not end by ending these sit-ins. So that's why other solutions need to be taken. And we need to have proactive measures. 3 days ago, the Minister of Interior said, I was surprised that they did that in the police stations. How can you do that? They said it. They declared it from the stage, from the theater, before Morsi became a president. He said, if I'm not president, we're going to burn it down. And so I cannot always be reactive. This is going to make me lose a lot. I have to be insightful, visionary, proactive. Strategic planning is basically comes from military tactics. So what is my strategy these days? What's taking place in the heart of the country? Because the amount of killing for the police didn't take place for a long time. But I want to say something, Azza. I don't want people to go on trial on every... why did we do the 30th of June? It's against terrorism. But what I'm saying is that it's the rule of law. And in transparency, so we're totally against, and we're very upset that we don't know where the people who were kidnapped, were they taken, and how were they returned. That's why we had this revolution on the 30th of June. Why did we have this? We cannot play the same role of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is dangerous, and this is banned, and we're against it. We want transparency. So in the coming period, in the new era, we need to know, and we need to understand, and we need a rule of law in transparency and in objectivity and transitional justice, since not just on the Muslim Brotherhood. We're talking about, I'm a member in social justice, and we're going to talk about before that everybody needs to understand what is transitional justice, because people think transitional justice means discussion. The ministry today in one of the shows explained what that is. So as for the idea of transitional justice in that period of time, do you think a lot of people talk about political reconciliation and maybe some discussions with some leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, those who are not, their hands are not, do not carry blood? Why didn't this take place with the previous regime? There's no talking politics right now until the security is stabilized, and then they come out and say we made this and that mistake, and fair trials take place. We're talking about justice and fairness. If this takes place, we can accept the people who did not kill. So are you saying that we reconciliate with Mubarak's regime? No. Why did the same people that they call for their return, the Muslim Brotherhood's return to the political scene, did not call for the Mubarak's regime return? Mubarak's regime were the members of the NDP were 3 million. I'm talking about the big people. And we're still talking about the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. And also it needs discussion or dialogue. It's not something you say we're going to reconciliate in social transitional justice and trials and everything. Everybody who made a mistake. Don't say Muslim Brotherhood or an NDP. Everybody who made a mistake against Egypt, this poor country, Egypt, they need to be tried and they need to be held accountable. The church released an announcement disdaining the violence. There is some sectarian anger taking place since Mubarak's. So when a Christian and a Muslim take a fight, they took them to the state security. 2 Egyptian citizens fighting. So I think the aggression on churches is totally unacceptable, and the Egyptians are now starting to defend churches, and they felt that this is a dangerous thing. The weakest link in the Egyptian chain is the relationship between Muslims and Christians. I think it is weak, but it was not strengthened. It has always been weak, and they did the family house project and everything, but there was nothing serious. We're talking about citizenship, and everybody needs to feel equal to each other. So these criminal acts, what is the purpose of that? Civil war, sectarianism. So it's not punishment for the Christians. No, it's we're willing to give up all the churches so Egypt survives. As everybody said, as the Pope said, we reject foreign intervention and we can pray at homes if we wanted, but Egypt is ahead of us all the time, and our eyes are on that. This is the thing that we cherish, and this is the thing we die for. In the announcement of the church, they rejected any foreign intervention. This is a very patriotic situation, and this situation is not new to the Egyptian church. And if you compare that to the Muslim Brotherhood, who call for the international intervention to protect them all the time on the words guilty, this is disapproved of. I'm a person I always cursed Ann Patterson and say, this woman, this wicked woman who intervened in our affairs. We will fight together, we will solve our problems together, we will do whatever we want inside. This guy from Turkey, he needs to see his problems first, and Taqsim and the evacuation of the protests, and his upset. Nashwa al-Hufi was here with my colleague Graham Sahli a while ago, and she asked for some information about what happened, and they said this is an internal affair and we could not provide information. The Prime Minister of Britain, when they had these incidents, he said, do not talk to me about human rights. The security of Britain is more important than anything. Are we the weak ones only? Huge reactions for your announcements by all the media. They're not happy with it. Very positive, don't worry. In all the news website, which one specifically? We continue to give up all the churches for the sake of Egypt. What about Al Jazeera? Really, Al Jazeera. This is the mouth of Qatar. This is like a state television of Qatar. With all due respect of the Qatari people, there is a difference between, always difference between the people and the government or the politics. So it's like the Islamic group as the military arm. So this is the political arm of Qatar. They're trying to create some power through Al Jazeera, and do you think Qatar, this semi-state, is the one who created this country, or does it have, as it is said, it's Zionist or something like that? Accusations all the time. It's important what they present. What role do they play? This channel is biased and destructive, vandalizing against the will of the peoples, especially the Egyptian people. They do not show the whole truth. They focus on one aspect or one side, as some other media institutions that focus on another side. So they are totally biased for the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's not just that. The day of the evacuation at 7 a.m., it said urgent. The coalition of legitimacy calls every Egyptian to go to squares and streets to endorse the Muslim Brotherhood and legitimacy. That was not normal and ordinary. 5 minutes after that, Aswan Square was full and movements. So it's used, yes, it's used for directions and instructions, and it has like the password. And when a leader says something, this is like the password that everybody takes. This is the mobilization, the means of mobilization. And what about the urgent things? Like they had a number, the number 2,200 martyrs. And on the screen, it says on the screen after in the first hour. You can, I'm not saying that they don't cover the news and cover violations, but do not promote hatred in favor of a certain group. And this is what Al Jazeera is doing. They're always on the side of Islamic groups and Muslim Brotherhood. And the terrorist groups, jihadist groups, with all sects and categories. And we need to have a stand against this channel, and it cannot be, and I don't think with the channel, I think the stand should be with the country, with Qatar. Like what? Calling the ambassador, then freezing the relationships, then cutting the relationships if needed, and the government sees what they need to do to regain the dignity of Egypt, because the amounts of aids the Qatari embassy provided for the Muslim Brotherhood, I don't have something documented, but they need to investigate that matter. Therefore, Al Jazeera is rejected by the Egyptian people. Are you with closing the channel? Well, I'm against closing any channel, but let the people judge. So we don't want to start to take measures. As you're going to shut Al Jazeera, you're going to shut something else. So if somebody is against you, you need to expose him. I think the Egyptian people was totally aware, and they took position. When you see Al Jazeera people, they start to attack them. And all the politicians do not go there. Nobody goes there. But I don't think the idea, but it's not just the media message. I think they promote hatred, and they use it for giving instructions and passwords. So it has an active role in the terrorism. I want to stress on what Azza says. People reject them. So any conference they attend, they reject them from entering. We were in the leadership preparation center, and they kicked them outside the meeting. So, and the people with the experts and the figures, the media figures, and they boycott that, but they're playing a role. Can you have an evidence? But do you need an evidence for everything? Of course. There are basic principles that we cannot give away. First of all, there needs to be freedom for the media, and lying media and biased media, we need to struggle and resist that, not by shutting it down, because you cannot ban people from saying what they think. Ideas remain. Ideas don't die. They need to be resisted and fought with ideas. You need to have strong media, not shallow media, somebody who provides the whole picture. This means that when our government makes a mistake, we're going to stand against them and say, you did this mistake. And when there will be violations, human rights violations, we will say there are violations. This is in case we wanted to build the country. So you're a media person. You need to be cautious. They can say, let's shut down Mehwar later on. Can they do that? We're here to make the people aware. The best response to any person who's biased for terrorism is to boycott that. Do not go for them. Do not watch them lie and expose the lies. This is our greatness. If they're being silly and stupid and shallow, do not ignore them. We try to refute everything they do. It's an appreciated effort. Today they focused on one angle in Al-Fath, one angle from Al-Fath, the security forces, the military and the police, and they did not show what's taking place in the mosque, Al Jazeera. And so this is silly, because all the other channels showed all the other angles, so they're exposing themselves. Maybe because they're welcome outside, inside only. Okay, if you don't have access for inside, you can use the transmit of on TV, the Mehwar, the Egyptian, the national television. I don't know if the national television was there or not. It's easy. When you don't have access to a certain thing, you get it from a colleague channel. We all do that all the time. So what I'm saying is that you can do it if you want to. If they can show what happens abroad, they can show what happens inside. We're against fascism. We don't want to be fascists ourselves. By the way, are you against, are you with banning the religious parties? Yes, but this is not fascism. As a person, you have the freedom of belief. I'm going to explain to you. So there is no such thing as a political party based on religion. If you have a religion or religious belief, that's your freedom. If you're a Muslim, you can practice your rituals the way you want it, but you cannot build a political party. A religious political party says that I want to rule with the name of religion. Political party aims at ruling the country. So when you say that I am a political party, a Christian political party or a Muslim political party, I want to rule the country with my religion, either Christianity or Islam. But to say whatever I want and interpret this religion the way I want, I can exclude people, I can prosecute people. The politics is politics. Religion has nothing to do with politics. If I am a preacher, you have to remain a preacher. We don't say we're against preachers and Salafists and the people who promote Islam. You remember Mustafa Nahas when Hassan al-Banna went to him and he said, I want to run for the elections, and he told him, Sheikh Hassan, religion yes, politics no. And he retreated. That was in our constitution before, but we changed it. It's the that was added, and any organization or group that practice terrorism, the Muslim Brotherhood, for me, my opinion, that in the future they need to be dismantled if they proved to be a terrorist group, and there are calls for listing them as a terrorist group internationally. Dr. Morsi was not the one who's running the country, it was the Irshad office, and we saw the video when the Murshid was saying, where is Morsi? Call him for me. Does he know what I'm, the signature of this? And if you want to describe what happened in the last year in Egypt, I know that you want to leave. How would you describe the last year? Very depressing year that witnessed that people with no competency at all filled very important posts and positions. The worst practices, very malpractice. Thank you, Mr. George Ishaq, the member of Al Dustur party. We have a break and then we continue the discussion with Dr. Azza.
نستكمل حوارنا مع الكاتبة الصحفية الدكتورة عزة كامل.
Our dialogue with Dr. Azza Kamel. We would like to know your opinion about what is going to happen in the nearest foreseeable future. It is not only the Brotherhood, but there are the jihadists. They are going to arouse terror in the hearts of the Egyptians, and these demonstrations will continue, will not end quickly, and we need to be ready for that, because people should not think that the matter is easy, and we need to know what we are going to do in the future. We have the 50-man committee and the constitution and the guarantees and safeguards in the constitution. But we will also have to rise up to the security measures and the procedures. However, we should not neglect the work on preparing the constitution. People remained standing near Al-Fatha till the end because people were exposed to a lot of events. People were full of a kind of hatred. We don't want hatred to exist, and we do not want the citizens who are psychologically wounded and have a sense of hatred towards the Muslim Brotherhood to create a kind of terror or violence, because violence breeds violence. The Constitution is a basic guarantee for freedoms, for free media, for balance of the authorities, a guarantee for citizenship as a basis, a guarantee for the supremacy of the law, rule of law. We should not be a state of the jungle. As what happened during the reign of the Brotherhood, we need to know that every right, every citizen in Egypt has his own basic rights for dignity and rights for social justice. We need to think about our constitution in order to build a strong country. We should be directed towards construction and development. We always need to tell the government that it should not be reactive but proactive. We need to mobilize our experts, and we need Egypt to be a really democratic country. It is not the Muslim Brotherhood. It is just a stage. But we had the 25th of January revolution for freedom, for dignity, and for social justice. Whether there were Muslim brothers or not, we need to be to have the guarantees to ensure these objectives of the revolution. We have also waged a war against terrorism, which would continue for some time. We will continue and will remain steadfast. Thank you, Dr. Azza Kamel, the press writer, and now Mr. Al-Kafas will also meet with us here in this channel very soon.